So let's just, to start off, I just introduce ourselves, because I know some people and I don't know others, and some people know Amy, some people don't know her. So just in terms of myself, Craig and I lead the Midrand congregation, the Midrand Church, and we have been doing so for 25 years. I've been in education for quite a while. I've done every sort of education you can possibly do with my children in South Africa. We have gone with small Christian schools, we've gone with government schools, we've gone with bigger Christian schools, we've gone homeschooling, we've done private schooling, we've done government schooling, we've done literally, the only thing we probably haven't done is Montessori. That was probably the only one that we haven't done. So that's my package, and I suppose I've just been, and I train teachers on how to teach. So I've gone into the local communities and I'm teaching those women that are looking after thousands and thousands of children how to teach. So I suppose I was pressed into this place. Craig has been saying to me since lockdown, Andy, you need to do something. Andy, you need to do something. And only when Gareth pressed Amy from the other side, and we've landed up together again, because we started the Urban Kids preschool together. So now we've both been pressed by our husbands into this place where we might not be the experts in the field, but we do have some experience. And so that's my experience and where I come from and what I'm thinking. And so my thinking in terms of this is I'm going to take the real high road, because there's a spiritual aspect to this that I think I don't want us as human beings to miss at this point, not just urban life, but I'm saying broader than just urban life. That as humans, we've got a perspective that I think we've been shown, and God's revealed to us that I'm trying to pull as many people into as I can. So that's who I am. That's where I come from. Amy?
So Gareth and I lead the Centurion Church. Before that, I always say in my previous life. In my previous life, I was a teacher. I studied pre-primary first and specialized in special needs. And I worked in a special needs school I taught deaf children. And then I went back to studying, did my degree in primary school education, and then started the school alongside with Andy, and ended up working for Urban Kids for 7 or 8 years, running the school eventually. And then I have 3 children currently, so in this season I am lockdown homeschooling, like I assume most of you guys are as well, trying to hold it all together. Homeschool, how does that look? What is practically working, what is not? So where Andy is going to come and share, that, like she says, the high road, the spiritual aspect, the years and years of experience. I want to say, like, I'm right there alongside you. I'm in that. I'm teaching, I'm cleaning, I'm cooking, I'm attending the odd Zoom call here and there, and trying to balance everything in the world that has changed. So I want to just come and help along, so like, I know what it feels like. This is hard. These are some of the things that we're doing practically that have worked or that have completely bombed. So that's where I'm at.
Okay, so I think we have got a chat line that's going. I think if you can post your questions up there, we're probably not going to get. We'd love to do this again if you guys want it. I mean, Amy and I can chat for days, but if you guys are finding it helpful and want to know specific things, please post your questions. We'll get onto them afterwards, and we'll maybe set up another time earlier on next week, probably. Try and do it at a time that's more convenient. It's not a bath screaming time, not in the middle of your work and school day. We'll set up a time where we can have another one of this where we actually specifically go and answer some of your questions. So we don't want this to be a one-way download street, but also very aware of time. And another Zoom call to those people who have been on Zoom calls all week must be, oh my goodness, what are we doing? So we're going to try and keep it at 40 minutes. So I'm going to take the first little half, and then Amy's going to take the rest of the time. And I think I've been God has really, really spoken. I probably am going to cry for a bit of the time, and I don't know why. I think I think because I'm seeing my own children with their children and how they are struggling to keep their heads above water, I'm sensing such a press of God for what we are doing and how we should go about this season. It's such an important season. God, this virus hasn't taken God by surprise. This lockdown of all the nations, he's not at all surprised. He's not worried. He's not upset by it. But I think we are, and we haven't found his rhythm and his voice. So in our time that we've been locked down, I haven't been as busy as others. So what's been good is I've been able to sit under some life-giving teaching. And that life-giving teaching has been aimed at pastors and the troubles that they're having and how they're trying to navigate the system. And listening to that, I've been really, really aware that it can't just remain in a pastor's circle. This is not pastor's teaching. This is life teaching. So there's been two men that have deeply impacted me, and I'll just give you a little bit, because if I had to go on and on and on, you'd need longer than my 15 minutes that I've got. So one of the verses that God gave me, and it's an amazing little verse. I'm trying to study wisdom. So I'm going through the book of Proverbs and I'm trying to study wisdom. I haven't got there yet because I'm just writing out all the scriptures of wisdom and going back to find out what it is, because I want to be known as, I've asked the girls in my office, I said to them, so what's the mark of Jesus on me, you know? And I said, I'd like it to be kindness and joy. But the other one that I'd love is wisdom. But that's a very tricky one because it takes a little bit more time. But in Proverbs verse 20, verse 18, it says, don't charge in without wisdom. Skillful strategy will win this war. And I think more than ever before, this war that we are fighting, it might not be like it's not just the virus. It's the war of juggling your work that you have to do. If you don't do your job, somebody else will do it. So there's that war. There's the war of being thrust with your children. When I did homeschooling, I chose it. So I had time to review it. I've had time to think about it, and I had time to choose some things. Whereas you guys haven't been. You're not choosing this, and you've been thrust in it. And wars is something that we basically are thrust into. So I feel like as schoolers, we need a skillful strategy. It's not just how many minutes to do this and what worksheet should we do first or not. It comes from God. It's a wisdom that we need from God. I think we need more wisdom, not less. I want this time not to be this is what you need to do because you're juggling work, you're juggling house cleaning because we have to do that. We're juggling our jobs. We're juggling, this is the time to be spending with Jesus, just to add to our guilt load. And I think that I don't want this to be that. I want this to be a breath of fresh air for you. I want you to feel the breath of Jesus. I want you to feel God's breath of wisdom over you in this time. I want you to feel your load lighten, because he said his load is easy, his yoke is easy, his yoke is light. So just listen to a little bit of the stuff that I felt. Of those men, Paul de Jong, he's from New Zealand, he leads a massive church in New Zealand, and Rory Dyer, who most of you know, who most of you sat under some of his teaching before. So those are two men that have impacted me. And two things that they said, in different ways actually, is Paul de Jong said that this is a realigning or a reassessment time. And if you think about it, it really is, isn't it? We have had to reassess everything. How clean our house must be. How many times do we do the dishes? What constitutes tidy and what doesn't? What is really, really important and what is not? What can be left till the kids are in bed? What can be left till tomorrow? So there's a reassessing and a realigning. And then Rory spoke from 1 John. I preached from 1 John right at the beginning of the year. And I went back to that. John 1, not 1 John, John 1. You see, at least I've got, Amy's got her techie guy sitting behind her computer. I've got my Bible guy sitting next to me here. Just because I've asked him to be here. And from John 1, from John 1, Jesus at one point, Andrew goes and gets his brother Peter and he says, I want you to meet this person. And Jesus stops and he gazes at Peter, at Simon. His name was Simon, and he gazes at Simon. And as he gazes at Simon, he says, I'm going to rename you. And he names him Peter. On this rock I'll build my church. And you know, I think in this time of realignment, reassessing, there's going to come a renaming. And when I talk about a renaming, you're not going to suddenly call your little Bailey, you're not going to suddenly call her Esther. I'm not calling her about, I'm not, because she'll be confused as well. I'm not talking about that renaming. I'm talking about reassessing and realigning our families and renaming what we've said our families can do and can be, and what we've said our children can and are not. And I think God has given us this time. We're it. We are it. We cannot parcel Johnny off to the school for the school to take care of some of his learning needs, some of his intellectual stimulation. We are it. And I think it's time that we actually had a really hard look at our children and our families. And I think it's time that we can see them for who they really, we can gaze at them. And gaze at them with the eyes of Jesus, not at your own eyes and not what you're hoping for them, but gaze at them with a look of Christ upon you, which is a look of kindness. And gaze at them and rename them in a way. We've got opportunity to do that. Our schools, particularly if your child's not in grade 7 or 12, we've got another month where we can take our children and we can gaze. I think we do need to have time to gaze. My daughter gave a very, very wonderful thing the other day where she said, my children are napping and I should be working because it's a good time, but she says, I'm not. She says, I'm sitting. And so that's where some of the realignment has to come in, is that we need a skillful strategy from God to win this war. And we're not going to come with a strategy for you to do. It's going to be won by listening to Jesus. I think he's ready to talk to you. It's a season. We've been talking about listening to God's voice. We've been talking about this is the year of the voice of the Lord, not the year of the rat, which is a Chinese year. It's the year of the Lord, the voice of the Lord, that his voice is booming at this point. And I think we will, if we take time, just a little time. I'm not saying the morning, let's take a little time just to sit and hear his strategy for your family, hear his voice to say what your family could look like. Just realign this. There's some things that we see in our children that we don't like because they're reflections of us. And that's what that's what we're seeing day on day out. And instead of leaving it for the poor teacher to do, we can do something about it now, even though it might be the work that you do, is to just have a good look at your family, have a good assessment of your family, make the alignment shifts, make those shifts in you. Like we always tell people at church, just to make the shift, 21 days. I mean, I know Amy will tell you a story of what happened with Beth sitting at the table one day. I'm not going to steal her thunder. But there is time for us to realign, to refocus our families and what's important, and do a renaming. Let Jesus just come in and rename some of the things that you've just put out to your families. Just said, okay, that's who my family is. That's who I am. That's who my children are. I don't think we need to stay like that. Simon's whole life was changed by that one gaze of Jesus. We can do that. And then the second thing is, and I'm nearly done, is from Rory Dyer. Now, he spoke from John 1, and he just tagged this on at the end, and it gripped me. This is a rescuing time. It's a rescuing time. And I think it's a rescuing time in every way. We get to be in charge of every aspect of our children. We get to be in charge of their drumming lessons, of their rugby lessons, of their ballet lessons, of their art lessons, we get to be in charge of their school day. We get to be in charge of their bedtime. We get to be in charge of the chores that they have to do. We get to be in charge of everything. And we can be the rescuers of that as well. In Psalm verse 1, it says, whenever I was distressed, you enlarged me. And it also could mean you created room in me. And I think that's what's happening. Our capacities are definitely being stretched. He's creating room. Now, we could moan about that, but we could say, okay, God, what's the room in my family you want to create? Is it a room of quiet? Is it a room of prayer? Is it a room? And I'm talking figuratively. Is it something we could be doing? Are you creating, in this distress time, are you creating some room for us? And then the next part of the verse is, it says, I'm being squeezed again. I need your kindness right away. So it's a time of distress. It's a time of enlarging. It's a time of squeezing. I don't know if you felt like that. I'm sure you have. It's a time of squeezing, and we need his kindness. Why his kindness in a time of distress? I don't know. I'm not a theologian by any means. But the one thing that I've always said to my teachers that I train, and it comes across, if I can say it every single time I train them, I do. And because of the culture, some of the lack of knowledge, is the stick is the easiest way to discipline the children. And what we've seen over many years is fear kills learning. So what's the opposite of fear? Unfear, yeah. But kindness could be something that's opposite to fear. Is that, have we got kindness that's running through our homes? Are we kind to, Jesus has been unbelievably kind to me. Have we got kindness that runs through our home? Because kindness is what's going to rescue us in this time of distress. Kindness is what's going to get us in the grip. It's going to get us in this. Kindness is actually going to give us a strategy. And I think we need to teach our children to be kind to one another. Sibling rivalry, I hear, is at an all-time high. So I know that, and it's bad enough. I mean, I've got a 30 and a 32-year-old, and the sibling rivalry is alive and well. It's alive and well, even at that age. So I know that, and with littler ones, I think it must be even worse. But it is time for rescue. It's time to rescue those children who have learning difficulties, who don't fit into the school system. Please don't try and make them fit even more into your school system. I had one very severely learning disabled child, and I had one very intelligent child that the school system suited her enormously well. And I had to take those two children through school. And I had to take them together through school, which was important, which was interesting. She used to say to me, but he's only writing half a page. Why do you make me write one page? And you've got to be kind to the both of them in that moment. So there's a kindness where you're learning differently children. Release them from the worksheets and the tediousness of it. Try and find a different way to teach them math. Teach them reading. I got Kevin reading books that had so little reading on them for a 9-year-old. I had him reading books that he could decipher the words by the big pictures. I had to find a whole new way of helping my learning disabled child, the fidgety child. There's nothing wrong with doing maths and playing drums at the same time. If they can do it, let them do it. I think if they want to be in their pajamas all day, let them. Who's going to see? I used to try and make my homeschooling like schooling. Better put the date on your book, and better underline the date. Better do all these things, and because otherwise you're going to get the red or wrong, the red tick or the red cross. And I learned over the time that's absolutely immaterial and ridiculous. It's ridiculous that we need to be looking into how our children learn. Darlena's got a learning styles thing that she does. I want to invite her in here, and I want to put her number up so that you could maybe just do a small thing on finding out how your child actually learns, so that you can be the person to do that. I think we can rescue our children that are bored by the curriculum. Amy's got a highly intelligent James. It's time. This is a beautiful time for that boy to explode with knowledge. It's a rescuing time. It's a rescuing time for those kids. It's a rescuing time for the fidgety kids that always get into trouble. It's a rescuing time. It's time to rescue our children from a school system that we put them in because we believe it's the best system for them. But it's not the only system. And I think God has given us this time to do those. Maybe it's 3 things. It's the reassessing and realigning. It's the renaming of our families and what we can do. and it's the rescuing thing. So I think we can do that. I hope it's not a massive load, and I hope it's not too like, oh my goodness, when is she going to shut up and let Amy go? It's something that God has really, really put on my heart and my thinking. And I've got about 4 or 5 pages more, but we're not. I'm going to hand over to Amy. She's got some phenomenal stuff that I think will help you. And we've worked on this together, so it's not I'm not coming from left field and she's coming from right field. That I feel like that's why I'm so excited to do it with her together, because she can come with this, that she's already spoken to me about what's happened in her family, and she's going to tell you about that. So let's all give a clap. Come on, put your little clap hands together, and drum roll. Give it over to Amy. Go for it, Amy.
Thanks, Andy. I do. I love that Andy and I get to do this together. I sent her a message yesterday and I said, oh, it's so fun to get to work with you again, because we had so much fun when we started a preschool out of nothing, and I don't know, we just laughed for days. I think that's all we did. And that, I think that is my heart even in this, is that let this time that we have together be fun, but actually that's what we should be doing with our children as well.
Yeah.
So I sat under the two teachings Andy mentioned, and both of those times I left those teachings in tears, and I went and wept, because number one of the power of the Holy Spirit that transcends the screen, that I felt like I'd been in the presence of God, even on a Zoom call, which is amazing. And I was so grateful for God's kindness. Second as a child, it was bound to happen. Oh, that whisked him away. So I recognize that there's many people that are struggling, that are hungry, that are in the deep end, that are drowning, that don't know how to educate their children and keep their job. I recognize all those things, and I don't want to seem callous, but I'm incredibly grateful that God has given me this time with my children. I realized in week 1 that my children were not coping. They weren't coping with me being on Zoom. They weren't coping actually in life. And during the course of these 5 weeks, both of my children have told me of instances at school when people have been mean to them. Both of them have displayed certain or told me about certain things that teachers have spoken over them and said to them. And I'm incredibly grateful that I've had this time to come and realign and adjust and reassess. And I may not send my children back to mainstream schooling. We haven't made a decision. The school hopefully will never see this recording yet. But I've just come to realize some things. And what is important. And what is important to me is more than my children being educated and my children being socialized and my children doing sport. What is important to me is who my children are becoming. So I have on my chalkboard here in my kitchen, I wrote it there in week 1, who are you becoming? And who am I becoming in this season? As a wife, as a mother, as somebody, whoever God's called me to be, who am I becoming? What is God going to work on in me? But who are my children becoming as well? And I'm grateful because I've had the opportunity to come and bring adjustments, and come and bring correction. And all part of the who am I becoming is I lost the plot one day. I yelled and threw things off the edge of the veranda because I couldn't cope with the mess. And I was trying to control the mess, and I lost control completely. And so that was week 1. And so I've been trying to work on my own character and go, be kind to yourself, but be kind to your children. Losing it, not looking after yourself, not looking after your children is not going to help anybody. Nobody's going to learn anything. I'm not going to learn anything. I'm not going to become a better version of myself. And my children are not going to learn anything. And they sure as anything are not going to become a better version of themselves. They're just going to become like me. And I don't want that. So one of the things that's been in my head is I want to choose their hearts over homeschooling. So if they start to fall apart, if I start to fall apart, if everybody's hungry, if, I don't know, whatever happens, whatever interruption, we have a schedule, but I do not stick to it as if it is the last thing on earth that I need to hold on to. If things start to unravel, I will rather choose, is this a heart moment or is this a school moment? So if I have to drop school to deal with hearts, I will choose hearts every time. And that has been a very helpful thing for me to put into my thinking of, this is a heart moment, or this is a homeschool moment. And often I've had to deal with a heart moment. And that's why I say I'm so grateful for this time, because I'm trusting that my children are going to come out much better, and so am I at the end of this, however that looks. Nobody knows how that looks. Being forced to slow down has made me reassess what's important, and I would rather my children learn about life also than 1 + 1 or whatever. So the other day I was saying to Beth, why is your room such a mess? And generally when something is a mess, you would run in there and be like, clean it up, tidy it up, we need to go, leave for school, get in the car. You know what houses are like, if your house is anything like mine, like, let's get moving. So you end up half the time just doing it yourself or just ignoring the mess. But because we've slowed down, Beth turned to me and she said, I don't know how to fold my clothes. It's like, oh, fail, mommy. You didn't teach your child how to fold her clothes, so she doesn't know. And that, to me, is education. That is part of what the homeschooling thing is about. It's not just 1 + 1s. It's also life skills. So we got to discuss why it's important that Daddy needs to be on this call at the moment, and why people do work, and how, you know, the economy works, and how some people don't have jobs, and all those big picture things that are not on the curriculum, but that actually should be. And I've taken moments in my day to teach into those things as they arise. And then having the curriculum in your hands, if you do, so the schools are giving them out. You can find tons of stuff online, or Andy's written some curriculum for preschoolers as well. But having that, and then you know what your kids are learning at school, made me feel really empowered. So we're in the classroom and we're learning, but actually we go out into the garden, and then James is learning about cause and effect, and he's 9, and he's like nature crazy. So then we go out to we've got a little fish pond, and we go out there and we learn about cause and effect then. I don't want to kill their creativity and make them bored to tears by another worksheet, like Andy said. But actually, I know what they need to be learning. I can do that anytime. We can have those conversations around the dinner table. So I'd rather let them run loose for a bit and then come back and weave whatever they're supposed to be learning into everyday life. One of the other things that I really would love for them to know is, I had a revelation a while back that I never knew that my mom had a relationship with Jesus, because she read her Bible early in the morning before we woke up. And I do the same. I read my Bible early in the morning because that's when it's peaceful and quiet. And this last week I thought, actually, I want my children to see me reading the Bible. I want my children to see me worshiping God. I want my children to see those things. So we do a little daily devotion. You know, we've got this cool little book that we read at breakfast every morning. But actually, I want them to know my journey and my walk with God, and see that practically worked out in our home. So that's like kind of an aside thing that I was thinking about when I was thinking, it's not just learning the curriculum, it's actually learning so much more, it's so much broader. So in the things, the realignment and the rescuing that Andy spoke about, I've got to see my children's strengths and weaknesses. I got to see, which I never probably would have noticed, that my daughter Beth is in grade 2. Her eyes are weak, so she's losing her place. And I only got to see that because she was reading off the computer screen. and it's much harder to track on the computer screen. And at school, her handwriting was getting more and more and more untidy, and I couldn't work out why it was so untidy, and the teacher couldn't work out, and it was like, oh, we'll call the OT. But actually, first day of homeschool, trying to get her to read off a computer, and I picked it up instantly. So that's the realignment, that we get to look at our kids and go, wait a second, there's something's off here. And you can start to ask those questions, like, why is this happening? When actually in the busyness of life, we just kind of outsource parent. Oh, we'll just call the OT and the OT will fix it. And actually now it's an opportunity for me to go, okay, well, I can fix it. I can notice, I can realign. The thing of hearing their hearts has been a realignment for me of recognizing that there's been some bullying going on at school, and also some of the conversations that have been unhelpful at school. The other day, Beth was telling me about something that had gone on at school, and she stopped, and I said to her, why haven't you told me that this was happening? And she said, Mommy, but you're always busy. And I think those are the things that stop me in my tracks and go like, I never want to be too busy for my children. And we need to realign and go, why am I doing the things I'm doing when my own 7-year-old feels like I'm too busy for her to tell me that there's a girl being mean to her at school? So those are the things that I want to make time for, more important than anything else and any other homeschool thing that's given to us. And then rescuing, so, sorry. I realize that the world speaks death over our children all the time. And it's not a new realization. It's just a thing. It's just the way it is. So children are being told that they're the naughty one, or they're too busy, or they're too slow, or they're too silly, or they, whatever. You fill in the blanks. You know the things that kids end up saying to each other, and actually even teachers are saying things over our children without meaning, because the teachers are just trying to do their best and they're trying to get through the curriculum, and they've got so many children in their class, and they say, hurry up, you're too slow, or whatever those things are that just shoot out. And there's an opportunity for me to come and rescue my children and speak life over them. So Beth again was struggling with perfection, and she was trying to write I read a sentence and she was supposed to write it. And I said, what's going on? Like, why are you struggling? And she was rubbing out, and she made a huge mess of her page. And she said, my teacher says it has to be perfect, and it's not perfect. And I was able to stop and say, that is irrelevant. The only person in the whole world that's ever been perfect is Jesus. You do not have to be perfect. Your work will never be perfect. What you need to do is stop and write the sentence down. Doesn't have to be perfect. You will get things wrong. The only person on the planet that was ever perfect is Jesus, and I do not expect you to be perfect. And I think a lot of the things that she's put on herself, and the fast pace, and it must be neat, and it must be done like this, has actually stopped her. She's done really well. Since I've taken off all those pressures, she's started doing really well, and her writing is neater, and it's quicker, and her spelling is improved because she's not feeling that anxiety of just getting it done. And the other thing is that I was able to say to her, she said, oh, I'm just useless. And I was able to say, you're not useless, you are a daughter of the King, and you will walk like a daughter of the King, and you will talk like a daughter of the King, and you will act like a daughter of the King. There is nothing about you that is useless. And it comes to that thing that Andy was talking about, renaming. We actually get to speak life over our children. We get to speak gold over our children. We get to call out who they are when we stop and actually look at them and go, okay, it's not about how quickly we can get through the curriculum. You know, they must be top of the class by the end of the year because their parents have invested all their time in curriculum. It's actually call out the gold, speak life, slow down, take the time to actually invest in who they are, who they're becoming. We've spoken a lot about the armour of God, which is something that I need. I need to guard my mind about the thoughts, and we'll be able to invest back into them, those things of like, actually, what you're saying over yourself is not helping your thoughts. It's not helping you think the right things about yourself. And then, Andy, I can't remember which is the specific story. I have so many stories.
I can't change. I can't change.
Oh, yes. Beth has got a very loud voice. So we keep saying to her, Beth, just tone it down. You don't have to shout. And I think she's the smallest and the youngest in her class. So I think she shouts to be heard permanently. So she kept shouting. We keep saying, we're right here. Just, tone it down. And she kept saying, she said to the one night at dinner, I can't change. This is just how I am. And I said to her, no, you actually can change. It'll just take you 21 days. And we're able to say to her, hey, we've done this 21-90 principle of actually it takes 21 days to change. And we're able to say to her, look, together we're going to work on this thing. Every time you raise your voice when we're sitting right here, we're going to tell you to lower your voice. And in 21 days' time, you're going to start noticing that you no longer shout, and you're going to notice that we're not telling you to be quiet all the time. So it's moment by moment of education, not curriculum, is what I'm taking from the season. Yeah, we go into the classroom. Classroom is our garage. Yeah, the school's providing work. Yes, sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's boring. James is supposed to read every day because he should, but I gave him George's Marvelous Medicine, thinking this is a fantastic book for him to read. He was so bored, but he is reading the encyclopedia because that's what he likes. And so I don't care that he doesn't want to read George's Marvelous Medicine, as long as he's reading. So he's reading about lions and tigers, and he's teaching me about animals I didn't know existed. And then there's the opportunity to just broaden things for them and go, okay, cool, read whatever you like, but you have to be in your room reading for 20 minutes. That's the agreement. And then it's not punishment for him. He actually loves it. He reads for an hour. It's like, cool, I like reading this thing, so I'm going to read it. So I don't know if any of that was helpful. I could probably tell you a million other silly things.
You got to save some for the next time that we're in. It's 1:45. Just a couple of things before we finish up. Do you know that in Japan, their curriculum for the first 3 years is manners? They start teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic in grade 3. I think they do some of it, but their main focus is manners in their schools. So that was quite shocking for me. I was quite surprised at that. And yet you go to Japan and those people are unbelievable. They're not a piece of litter on the floor. So courteous, just amazing nation. The other thing is that you do know, so Justin said something about the worksheets and the wada. Repeat everything every year. Children's development is such that they repeat everything, most things. I think grade 12 is different. Grade 11 and 12 probably is your most crucial years. I don't even think grade 7 is as crucial as those 2 years at the top, right up there. I know they're starting with grade 7 and grade 12, but grade 11 and 12 for me are your defining years. So the other thing, so Kevin also said to me, he said, Mum, what we need you to tell us what the 3-year-old should be doing and what our 5-year-old should be doing. You can Google that. For me, you can Google that. Anybody can Google that stuff. It's not for me to be able to say to you, this is what 3-year-olds, and that's a norm, and the norms are usually very, very broad. I think the tedium of worksheets, I think you can teach your children far, far better than worksheets. I really do. I think there's a depth in your children and a depth in you that you haven't even tapped into. I think that it's going to take a skillful strategy to win this war. And I think that we mark ourselves by the school years, and sometimes, I hid Craig's matric certificate from Kevin when he was writing matric. I hid it. I found it on Craig's desk. I said, put this away somewhere where your son can't see. And I just think of today, I think, well, Craig is honestly, he's one of the most intelligent men that I know. And so that matric certificate definitely didn't define him. And I think we all are that side of matric, and we know that it's difficult while we try to get our children through. But I think we can.
Andy, sorry, I just want to say, Justin, you're an incredibly creative human, and you're fun. So don't let your kids sit in front of the computer. Take it out onto the trampoline, or I don't know, make up a song. I've seen you sing, and put on some rock music and do a dance. Just be yourself. So bring the curriculum to life, but within your own personality, because your kids will remember their dad dancing around to some silly song that he made up about biology or geography more than any worksheet or computer, whatever they sat in front of. So be yourself.
If you think back to your own schooling and who impacted you the most, it was usually the real bad teachers, and it was the really, really good teachers. And it was the teachers that invested heart into them. So all you need to do is invest your heart into your children. I'm telling you, they'll learn more from you than anything. We had a thing with our teachers, the teachers that are not really teachers. We had a thing, and we were talking about fear killing learning. And so we said, any bad experience that you ever had at school, and the stories that came out were absolutely horrendous. And I thought, well, I had quite a good school. I got like a good matric, and so there was until I remembered, I never took science to matric because I had a science teacher in grade 9 in those days, that I left my science file at home, and he took my scarf and he twisted it around my neck and he said, where's your file? I said, it's at home. Do you know, tighter with that scarf, asked me the same question over and over again until I could not say at home. I did not do science for the rest of my life. I did not do science. And why didn't I tell my mom? No, because I was at fault. I left my science file at home. My mom would have said, left your science file at home. We have got such a beautiful moment to literally ignite our children into their interests. Ignite them. And so what if they don't do well at maths? Right through school, right until they reach matric. If you ignite a love of learning in your children, you've won the battle. You've won every single battle forever if you ignite a love of learning. So the two things I want to leave you with, amidst all of this, 3 things. I'm going to leave you my phone number. We'll start there. They've come up. I'll leave you my number. We're going to start a WhatsApp group. You can put your questions on that. You can jump on and off at any time. I mean, really, if it's getting too much for you, you don't want another WhatsApp group, that's fine. I don't get easily offended. I've been a cheerleader for 25 years. Okay, so I'm going to put my number up. The second thing is I want you to do 2 things this next week coming. I want you to teach your children something new every day. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's in the curriculum or out the curriculum, but teach your children something new every day. And it's really easy because you're an adult. So teach your children something new every day. And the other one is for you, learn something new every day. Just learn something new every day. It could be something you learn about yourself. It could be something you learn about your children. It could be something that you learn about our nation. It could be, but set yourself up to be a lifelong learner. And as you do that, you'll set your children up. You start teaching them something new every day. And as you do that, your children will gain a love of learning, which is what got me started in the first place, was I saw dead eyes in a 4-year-old. I said the cycle of poverty begins not when they can't find a job at 18. The cycle of poverty begins when the love of learning dies. We have got such a beautiful opportunity, such a beautiful window, a moment in time to ignite the love of learning in our children. And we've got to have a skillful strategy. So I'm going to put my number up. You can take it. Oh, let me press the right button. Oh, look at that. And I've put it onto me because I'm not. I haven't put it onto Amy. We will be sharing and talking. I certainly won't do this on my own. Amy has got enough on her plate, doing homeschooling and jobbing and house cleaning and all the other juggles that we have to do. I don't have that at the moment, so I do have space. So just put your Oh, there we go. We've even got a WhatsApp group. I don't know what that is. But anyway, there's my number. You're welcome to it.
My IT guy, he's amazing.
The IT guy's something. He started a WhatsApp group. He's done it. He's got it. So just go for it. And listen, I just want to pray quickly before we go. It won't be a long one. Father, I just pray that you come by your Holy Spirit and just pour out your wisdom within us. You've said in James, you said, if any man lacks wisdom, just ask. And as we come to you for this next week coming, Monday's rolling on again, that I ask you that you give wisdom, where we cry out to you for wisdom. We cry out to you for a breath of life over our children, where we cry out for a reassignment, realigning, and a renaming. Won't you come and gaze at our families? Come and gaze and rename some things. That you'll show us your kindness so that we can show kindness. Holy Spirit, come and do something absolutely extraordinary this next week. I pray this in the wonderful and kind name of Jesus. Amen. Bye, guys. You've been great. Also quiet.